Hi Year 6, thanks for your work in the lesson today. You all worked really hard and you've definitely got much better at solving some harder equations. But after I've marked your books, there were a couple of things and a couple of mistakes that were coming up for quite a few of you. So I thought the easiest thing might just be to do a video which you can watch and hopefully then you'll understand a bit better. So if we take a look at an equation like this one, 3x add 5 equals 5x minus 7. This equation caught quite a few of you, tripped quite a few of you up in the lesson. And it's mostly to do with negative numbers. So I'm going to talk through this with you, how I would solve it, and then I'll talk about a couple of mistakes that some of you made. So when I look at this equation, I see that minus 7 and I don't really like it, and I want to deal with that negative number straight away. So if I were solving this equation, actually the first step for me would be to add 7 to both sides so that that negative number disappears and I don't have to deal with it, because I find it easier to deal with positive numbers rather than negative numbers. So I now have 3x add 12, because 7 and 5 makes 12, equals 5x. Because if I have minus 7 and I add 7 to it, I'm left with nothing. Okay? Now I'm trying to get the x's on one side of the equation and a value on the other. So looking at this, the logical step is to take 3x from both sides. So I'm left with 3x, take away 3x is nothing, so I've just got 12 on that side. And 5x take away 3x is 2x. If I know what 2x equals, I can divide by 2 to find x. So in this equation, x equals 6. I'd recommend that you do just go back and substitute that value into the equation to check that it works. So if x is 6, 3x would be 18, add 5, which is 23, and 5x would be 30, take away 7, that would also be 23, so I know that I'm right. So that's not the only way to solve this equation, and when I looked at your books, some of you had decided, rather than to add 7 to both sides, to take away 5. Okay, so that's fine, and as long as you're happy dealing with the negative numbers that result, there's no reason why you can't do that. So if I take 5 from both sides, I end up with 3x on this side of the equation, because positive 5 take away 5 leaves me with nothing. I've still got 5x on the other side. Now this is the part where some of you got really confused. So if I have negative 7 and I take away 5, that number is going to get more negative. If it helps, think about temperature. If it's minus 7 degrees, and the temperature drops by a further 5 degrees, it's now actually minus 12. Now some of you made a mistake here and you said that the answer was minus 2, and what you were doing there was actually adding 5 on instead of taking it away. So if you need to, you might want to go and have a look at negative numbers and just check that you're happy adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers. Okay. So I've now got 3x equals 5x minus 12. So what I can do now, I want to get the x's onto one side of the equation, on the other side of the equal sign, and have a value on the other side. So I can take 5x from both sides. So we've got 3x take away 5x. And that will leave me actually with minus 2x equals minus 12. And if I know that minus 2x is minus 12, then minus x must be minus 6. Now, we don't usually give the answer to an equation as a negative value, so we wouldn't say minus x equals minus 6. So I'm going to make them both positive, because they're both negative here. If minus x is minus 6, then positive x must be 6. I wouldn't recommend solving this equation this way. I'm just showing you because some of you are tempted to solve it this way, and I wanted to show you can still get to the right answer of x equals 6. But I would recommend dealing with that -7 first, and then the numbers aren't quite so tricky to deal with. So my top tip is, if you can get rid of a negative number when you look at an equation, to do it, and it just makes life a bit easier for you. Now, what you've actually done here to turn -x equals -6 into x equals 6 is to have times both sides of the equation by -1, because if you times a negative number by a negative number, the result is positive. I wouldn't advise that you actually use this method. Although you can get to the right answer, I think it's a lot more tricky and you might make some mistakes along the way. So what I would recommend is you look back at the beginning of this video, and instead of taking steps which result in negative numbers, which are more tricky to deal with, like I said at the beginning, I'd eliminate those negative numbers and make the maths as easy for yourself as you can.